evening and welcome to Hollywood. We are live from the red carpet at the Dolby Theatre and I'm joined by Kachi and Nkechi to give you the inside scoop, everything that's happening behind the headlines here in Hollywood. And let's start by asking you ladies, we've been here for a couple of days, what's the mood like?
Well, Kachi, off, you're here and the mood is, like we said yesterday, a bit mixed. There are lots of mixed emotions. Yesterday we were in the streets and we were just asking people how they felt in general about what the Oscars are going to hold. And we bumped into Cynthia Erivo's mum and her sister, although we couldn't get an interview because she wasn't interested in talking. But people are just like, oh, I hope Joker wins. You know, I hope Joker wins. I hope Joker wins. So there's a lot of excitement, but there's also lots of disappointment due to the lack of diversity for the Oscar nomination list. But then again, people are also not surprised. So I feel we're getting to that point where people are like, oh, well, it's the Oscars. Here we go again. So in general, it's mixed emotions, mixed feelings. However, people are still very excited, not just for the stars trotting their stuff in a few hours, but for the fashion that's going to be here as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, when we spoke to people on the street, everyone had mixed feelings and everyone really wanted... I think Joker is the most watched movie in 2019 because literally 90% of people we spoke to, even on the red carpet, spoke about that they've seen Joker and they haven't seen any other movies. And also you spoke about the diversity. It's really mixed emotions because I think people are tired of the Oscars having this issue and controversy all year round. It happens all the time. So now people are really tired and they're kind of rooting for streaming services. We spoke about that as well.
Exactly, and let's not forget the demographic watching the Oscars. So we asked a few people if they were going to be watching, and interestingly, I would say most of the teenagers and below, millennials in general, are not really interested in watching the Oscars. You're like, oh, well, if I see it, I see it. If I don't, I don't.
How far do you think that is because of the diversity issue? I mean, we've talked about Cynthia Erivo very briefly there.
Yeah.
She's the only black actress.
Yeah.
Do you think that's having an impact on the people that might watch the Oscars?
Well, I think in terms of the millennials, it has nothing to do with that. It's just the fact that, look, I literally have just seen Joker, and that's because it's like, you know, DC. People are just interested in that. It's a superhero film, you know, like Martin Scorsese said, not cinema, just poof, poof, poof. So I think that's the reason why they're not going to be watching, because they don't have their kind of movies there. However, that is another factor. But like I said, people are getting used to that. So I don't think that's the reason why people will not watch the Oscars.
And you mentioned the streaming services.
Yeah.
So straight away we go to The Irishman and we go to The Marriage Story. And the fact that this year Netflix have 24 nominations. What's the feeling on the street? Are people pleased that Netflix is doing well? Or, I mean, the industry are a little bit nervous about it?
Yeah, just before I get to that, I was going to round off by saying that at the end of the day, people just want to watch the Oscars because it is the Oscars. It's a hallowed event. It's an amazing award, right?
Yeah, literally. It's the biggest night in Hollywood. And people don't only watch because of the movies or the winners. People actually watch because of the fashion. Oscars red carpet literally gives people the space, celebrities the space and the time to express themselves. Even designers as well. Designers want to dress presenters, they want to dress performers, they want to dress people who are nominated, who might win. So that's another reason why people actually watch the Oscars.
Yeah, so to answer your question now with regards to the streaming service, what was that again? Do you mind repeating it?
Yeah, so the Netflix have got 24 nominations and the industry have got mixed feelings about that. What about the people on the street? What's the impression you guys are getting?
Well, I will tell you this for a fact. People love streaming services. They do. As a matter of fact, we're moving from the point where everybody's like, oh, hey, how about I take you on a day to the cinema to, hey, want a Netflix and chill? That type of behavior, you know? So lots of people are really excited for the Netflix nominations. However, the consensus still is, well, are they going to win any? You know, are they really going to win any? The appreciation, the recognition is, it's a huge, it's like 10 steps forward. Last year we were debating whether or not Roma should even be nominated, and this year, like you said, 24 nominations. So clearly people are starting to understand that, look, the Academy will do what the Academy wants. Whether or not we cry or we scream, if you deserve it, you're going to get it. And that's exactly what Netflix is doing, deserving it. However, in terms of getting it, getting the actual awards, I mean, it's absolutely shocking that The Irishman hasn't really gotten anything major this season, or Marriage Story. So it's like, what is really going on? So I'm hoping that the Oscars does what they do best, surprise us and give us something good, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think another reason why people are really rooting for streaming services is because it's becoming the norm.
Yes.
I mean, years and years ago, it was the norm to go to cinemas and see movies. But right now, you just want to sit at home and watch a movie on Netflix. And again, Netflix is more diverse. You can find like literally any movie on Netflix, Nigerian movies, Ghanaian movies, Spanish movies, literally anything. And what I feel is that if this year or next year or years to come, streaming services don't get the recognition that they need. They just need to create their own table. If you don't have a seat at the table, yeah.
Absolutely. And this also adds to the fact that Netflix has paved the way for other streaming services. You know, they've become these big studios. Now they're creating their own films. And it makes us excited because now we know that streaming services have a future in that. So we're looking forward to seeing more streaming services. There are various people here today. People from West Africa, people from Latin America, people from the, Arabian side of the world. So people are just saying, look, we all have streaming services springing up here and there, so you all better look out.
So do you think those new streaming services and Netflix are going to help counter the diversity issue that we're seeing here? We talked about problems with lack of representation for colour, but also there's an issue with women not being necessarily represented the way people would like. Do you think that's where the streaming services might come into their own?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's really good because, like I said, I'm a Netflix subscriber, and there's a literally diverse movies on Netflix. There's movies from all around the world. There are documentaries, there are foreign language movies, and I think Netflix gives people more opportunity because you don't really have to have a lot of budget. You don't have to chase the big studios. You don't have to get the big names in your movies. So it gives people a chance to showcase their work, to tell stories how they want to tell their stories. Exactly, and represent their culture and their diversity. So
Absolutely.
definitely, yeah.
And we know that, look, film has gotten to a point where it's like, okay, what do the people want to see? You know, we've been talking about the depth of certain movies and how people would want to watch, movies that have real drama, real depth. And the truth is, Netflix is giving people that opportunity. Martin Scorsese complained about the fact that, look, all these movies, all the Marvels that are killing cinema, these are really, really not cinematic films. But Netflix is giving people the chance, you know what, you don't want to do, for example, Jennifer Lawrence, she would not be caught there doing that kind of film. And she's saying, look, this is where I'm going to be able to tell my story. This is where I can go to tell people how I feel, what I want them to watch, that type of thing. So streaming services are definitely
in terms of Martin Scorsese finding a home with Netflix, one of the things he said to people is when he released The Irishman, don't watch it on a small screen. Do you think there's some concern there that perhaps, yes, they've given him the money and they've just certainly given him the support here? Do you think there's a bit of a contradiction there, or do you think Netflix will find a way to overcome those issues?
Well, I really don't think that's a big issue. I mean, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and that's what Martin Scorsese feels. However, another streaming service platform that I feel people need to pay major attention to right now is Arise Play. So on the red carpet yesterday, interestingly, someone just randomly said, you know what, West Africa is so huge. Just not just West Africa, Africa in general. And we would like to see our own streaming service, and guess who just came to the forefront? Arise Play. Beyond streaming, that's exactly what we're doing. So I think we are in the right place at the right time. Arise Play is doing exactly what it's interesting how we're so timely. We just had the launch. That was the 20th of January, right? And everybody was excited. This is going to be huge. And Arise Play is doing exactly what we're asking for. We want our own streaming service. We want to produce our own content. And we can do it, can't we?
Yeah, exactly. That goes back to literally creating your own table. If you don't have a seat at the table, create your own table. Tell your stories, because we can tell our stories in the best way. No one can tell it for us. So it's literally time for us to start producing our movies, start finding our own content and telling our stories the way we want the world to see us. Instead of looking for validation, we are validated.
Exactly. And in terms of diversity, how about this? With Arise Play, now we can produce our own narrative the way we want it and tell our own African story the way we want it.
So
Arise Play is one to look out for.
Play and its perhaps future position at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Do you think Netflix is blazing a trail, and if they do well this year, then Arise Play would be well placed to perhaps take advantage of that? Or do you think they might come in and do something completely different?
You know what I think? I think Netflix has decided to take the global approach, and they've done that successfully. We see them taking center stage in different continents around the world, in India, in Asia, in China, in South Korea, and they are doing this successfully, and I think that's exactly what Arise Play is going to do. However, we're going to begin with Africa. There's a lot that needs to be done in terms of our film industry. We need to look into quality, not just the amount of movie we're churning out, not just the amount of star faces we're seeing on TV, and that's what Arise Play is going to focus on, creating beautiful content.
We're hopeful that Arise Play will start to break some records of its own.
Of course.
So let's talk about the records that might get broken this year at the Oscars.
Well, want to start with that?
Yeah, oh my God, Joaquin Phoenix, he might get his first Oscars this year. I'm so excited about that. I know I'm speaking about Joaquin Phoenix all the time, but he did an amazing job, stellar performance. His transformation, he really embodied the character.
Yeah.
Literally watching the Joker, you don't think you're seeing Joaquin Phoenix in like a Joker outfit. That's the Joker. He is the Joker. It's so amazing. So if he wins, and another record that I think will be broken is Renee Zellweger. For Judy. Yeah, you remember 16 years ago she got her first Oscars for supporting actress, and I think if she gets this one, it'll be a really amazing.
It will be.
Yeah,
it certainly will be. I mean, like you said, Joaquin Phoenix was phenomenal. I keep saying that. Look, Joker has never looked better. And interestingly, it's so interesting how twisted the character is and how controversial it became. But a lot of people can relate to that. Triggers, you know. Something happens for a reason. Crazy happens for a reason.
Thank you so much for your analysis. And Ketchy, it's been incredible.
Yeah.
So you're here on the red carpet in Los Angeles, and stay with us because after the break we'll be talking about the major nominations for the Best Picture, the Best Actor and the Best Actress. Plus, Katura King will have all the details of the last minute preparations. We'll see you after this. Morning and welcome to the red carpet at the Dolby Theatre here in Hollywood, where the last minute preparations are underway for the 92nd Academy Awards. And of course the key thing is the awards, and I'm joined by Judita, who's going to talk us through the major awards for the actors.
Yes, I think like this year is, like I said, because the award season has pretty much been in lockdown for Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress, everyone thinks it's pretty much a fait accompli, a foregone conclusion. But still, it is remarkable the performances that have been put in this year, and to think of those who are not being seen as winners, even though their performances were exceptional. Everyone going into this, because the last awards we had was the BAFTAs. Everyone's talking about Joaquin Phoenix. That exceptional speech he made at the BAFTAs was a watershed moment across the industry. So coming in here, it's a very unique position he's in, because he's a favorite with ethnic minorities, he's a favorite with his peers who throughout the season have said he gave a seminal performance in a stellar career, and he's a favorite with the voters. So there couldn't be anything that could go wrong other than some vindictive streak that they don't want him to win with. So Joaquin is particularly going to be a moment that everyone wants to see what he's going to say now, having said those incredible words at the BAFTAs.
And of course, he's used his run towards the Oscar and his success at other awards to promote the environmental issues he's concerned about, and they're pushing for veganism. What do you think we might hear at the Oscars acceptance speech if all goes well?
One thing I found very unique about his run is that this film seems to have been the apex of his career. In the interviews he's done about the Joker, for the first time, he's talking very openly about his brother River Phoenix. Remember that when River Phoenix untimely died at the Viper Room, he actually retired from acting altogether for a year and then had to be convinced to come back. Now he talks about it. There's an understanding and a peace he has within him that translated into the openness he had on screen. Todd Phillips and him are a combination that were incredible, and the way with his new partner, Rooney Mara, he does work for conservation with animals, with the environment. He's in that special place as a man, as a human being, as an actor, and it's translated to the screen. But when you're looking at, on the other side, Best Supporting Actor with Brad Pitt, this is where I say politics is a great thing in show business. As far as the actual ability, everyone believes Joe Pesci should win. But the kind of campaign Brad Pitt has run this season, I would give him the Oscar, because he's endeared himself to absolutely everyone. And based on what he's gone through in his life and where he's come back in his award speeches, he says, I'm sober now, I'm at peace now, I want to spend time with family. He didn't go to the BAFTAs to spend time with family. Hollywood loved that. Hollywood loved to see you transform and go on a journey. That's what he represents.
It's interesting because, of course, Hollywood Pitt, as you say, is very much a Hollywood actor, a star, a celebrity. And yet this is his fourth nomination, and it's the first time people are really saying he might get an Oscar for acting. So a 30-year career that started with Thelma and Louise, he's never picked up a golden statuette. Why do you think it is that up until now this is the best chance he's had?
When you look at the nominations Brad Pitt has had, it was Moneyball, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and 12 Monkeys. That is quite a range of performances when you think about it, but he was always up against more stellar talent. What he has now is pedigree. He has legacy. He's had time. He's learned how to own his presence on camera. Even in this performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it references stuff that he went through in real life when he says the character is always high and doesn't get on with his wife. It's stuff he can so he knows how to draw on reality to translate to the screen. People love that. And so to think now, even though Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is not the greatest performance, it's a performance that touches a nerve. Once you capture people's imagination, you get the voters, and I think that's where he is. He's in that sweet spot of his career and enjoying it.
You talked at the beginning there about the politics of the Academy Awards. Do you think the fact that he's now favourite, and he's already picked up many awards already, is a reflection of the fact that sometimes it is not the best performance? As you say, it's perhaps, it's his turn, or it's the best campaign.
Absolutely. I love that you made that point. That idea about it's his turn. That is exactly what's happening to him and Laura Dern. Because some people are saying that Kathy Bates in Richard Jewell should be getting Best Supporting Actress, but everyone looks at Laura Dern's career. She has been consistent. She has been consistently good, and now they feel with Marriage Story, where she plays a Hollywood divorce lawyer, again, something that touches a nerve, it's her turn.
And do you think that even though she's the favourite, do you think there's any chance that the Netflix effect, which we've been talking about, elect, could impact her chances?
I think because she's the only one flying the banner for award wins for Netflix, it kind of sates the wound of Netflix being snubbed so much for so many nominations. So she's the one Netflix win. So they can't exactly say we won nothing because you did win something with Laura Dern. But then I also feel like when you look at Renee Zellweger, that's an incredible comeback. She's been out of the limelight for so long, and she came back with this tour de force of a performance in Judy, and that's a great thing to see because Hollywood loves a comeback.
And just a few hours ago, she actually picked up the Spirit Award for Best Actress, which is an incredible run because she's also got all the major awards. Again, there's an interesting aspect there for Hollywood, which is that she's getting the award playing Judy, yet Judy Garland never actually got an Oscar.
I know. It's kind of like making amends, but then when you think about it, she's the only one of these four main acting categories who's won before, because she won for Cold Mountain. Now she got Supporting Actress, and now she's got one for Actress. So it's a great collection to have for this lady who isn't not in the twilight of her career, she's in the vintage part of it.
Judy, so thank you for that insight.
It's my pleasure.
And you're here on the red carpet, and we've got more interesting information coming up from Katira King next. She's actually going to be talking about the last-minute preparations. And you know, the wonderful thing about Katura is she's incredibly passionate, and I'm always getting into trouble by cutting her off because she has so much to say, and yet really I want to listen to it, but we could talk for hours, couldn't we?
We could.
So let's start. I mean, we've got the red carpet behind us, and as you can see, they're actually cleaning it. We are a few hours away from this awards ceremony. Tell us what the last-minute preparations are like.
You know, it's been incredibly interesting because all day yesterday we saw production crew members sort of tidy up the Dolby Theatre, and of course it is the 92nd Academy Awards. We're making history this year. So production crew members were sort of, you could see them talking into their earpieces. There's like a furrow of excitement on the ground. And then you saw, I mean, one thing that I do have to mention is the fact that the set features 40,000 dazzling Swarovski crystals.
And you're going for,
crystals.
You know, you're quite sparkly yourself there,
I would
incredible. Are you going to be in there? Is that the secret you're about to reveal? You're going to be among those sort of sparkle.
Absolutely.
You heard it here first. You know, Katura King can get anywhere if anyone can get into the Oscars. Of course, if you take Best Actress, there might be a bit of a...
Well, we'll come to Best Actress in a bit, but with regards to the rehearsals and the preparation, there's been a lot of excitement, as I mentioned, and everyone seems to be in incredibly high spirits. So we see people like Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. They'll be presenting on stage together. Whilst they were in rehearsals, we saw, of course, Will Ferrell has incredible comedic timing. He's one of the greatest comedians in history. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus, of course, we know that she's got great comedic timing from her time in Seinfeld. Now, them together was just, it was a riot. They couldn't stop laughing whilst trying to present the Oscars, or, you know, rehearsing their presentation of the Oscars. At one point, you saw Julia just wagging the Oscar around and she forgot her line and she was like, ah! You know, it was hilarious. Then we saw people like 1917 actor George McKay. He stood in the nosebleed seats and he was practicing his bellow from up top, shouting down, "Are you guys having a good time down there?" You know, everyone, as I mentioned, is just in incredibly high spirits. Then we have other actors just sort of milling in and out and just making sure that they have their blocking right and that they've got their rehearsal, their lines in order, and that they're not going to make any mistakes later on this afternoon.
There is one presenter I really want to ask you about, Jane Fonda. I mean, what a Hollywood icon. You know, I went to the Friday or Fridays, and it was absolutely incredible. I mean, of course, she wore her famous red coat and a red hat, not what we're expecting.
Yes.
What can you think we expect this year from her?
Well, you know, she was at rehearsals and she's so funny. The first thing she said when she came in is, "Excuse me if I make a lot of mistakes, I'm hungover." So she definitely had a good night yesterday night. And she was, as I said, very good natured and great spirit. She was wearing flared jeans and a casual top and heels because they need to make sure that they blocked her according to the height that she will be later on this afternoon. So it's going to be, in terms of expectations, expect a lot. Nobody's here to disappoint. It's going to be fabulous.
What do you think about the ceremony this year? Again, going for the second year without a presenter. You just talked about William Ferrell and Julia Dreyfus. Imagine if they were the co-hosts for the entire show.
I know. I mean, the Academy must know what they're doing, right? They've been doing this for 92 years. This is the 92nd Academy Awards at the Dolby Theatre. So they've chosen not to have a presenter this year, as they did last year. And I think that that's because they were marred with controversy after the last presenter. So they kind of just want to maybe veer in a different light, so veer in a different direction, if you will. And I think that that is the right thing to do. They say sometimes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But in this case, things are starting to break. So they're trying to fix things as they go along in order to ensure that they maintain the same standards that we're accustomed to and have been accustomed to over the last 90 years.
And do you think that's part of wanting to attract a younger audience, bringing people along with it? You know, we talked earlier about the fact that, you know, some people are losing interest in the Oscar. Do you think they're trying their best to make it more current and more relevant?
I would definitely say so. I mean, it would be incredibly fortuitous if, you know, that wasn't the case, but of course that's what they're trying to do. I'm not sure that not having a presenter is exactly where they're going with that, but I think in terms of the actuality of the event itself, you know, the 40,000 Swarovski crystals, as I mentioned, it's a very young crowd that they're gearing towards. You know, we're not seeing the old fuddy-duddy decorations of years gone by. In terms of sort of appealing to the younger generation, I would say that they're definitely trying to do that. You know, we were talking about streaming services earlier on, and Netflix may make history as the only streaming service to come away with a Best Picture win. Of course, they are nominated for Marriage Story. We also see, speaking of Marriage Story, we see people like Scarlett Johansson, who would be the first actress in history to be nominated for 2 acting categories at the same time in the same year, on the same night. And that is, of course, Best Actress for Marriage Story and Best Supporting Actress for Jojo Rabbit.
And what the incredible thing is, it's her first ever nomination.
It is.
What a way to
Isn't
start.
that incredible?
Amazing.
I would have thought that she would have been nominated for Lost in Translation at the very least, but there you have it.
And do you think there are any other things we should be looking out for where records might be set?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many records being broken this evening. I mean, you have my favorite is, of course, Parasite. I mean, I can't stop talking about that picture because it's shot fully. 100% of the picture is shot in Korean language. It was shot on location in South Korea, and they're nominated for Best Foreign Film, which they, of course, will come away with the trophy for that category, but they're also nominated for Best Picture. Now, in the history of the 92nd Academy Awards, it is unheard of for a foreign language movie to win Best Picture.
Thank you, Katura. Our time is up, sadly.
Oh, unfortunately.
So we're going to be saying goodbye to you from the red carpet here at the Dolby Theatre, but we will have all the action from the awards.
We will.
All the news, all the winners, all the losers, and we'll find out if history will be made and Netflix will win, or Parasite, as Katori suggests,
Absolutely.
will be taking an Oscar home in Best Picture and possibly Best International Film.